Hey, what's up everybody? It's your boy Ryan here. So today, you know what I will be doing? So before I start this video, I want to say like a couple of stuff. First of all, I'm sorry for not having a good upload schedule lately. As I told you before in my community tab and in the story thingy, I told you that when we got back to school, like our schedule was overcharged and stuff like that. We didn't have any timetable to know when will we study and when we will not. But don't worry, that's got fixed just today, and I have my timetable, and I'm gonna work on the uploading schedule soon. So, with no longer ado, let's begin with the video. Izuku was currently lying in a bed, but he wasn't having the best time as somehow he found himself in a dark void. Izuku was standing up, which he found odd at how sensational this so-called dream felt to him. It was as if he was awake and feeling everything, but he knew he was asleep due to one of his quirks that he copied from villain that allowed him to get status updates of his body condition and health, so he would know if he had anything wrong with him due to the pain negation quirk he had, and his quirk was telling him he was asleep but in some sort of weird mental state currently that it couldn't figure out. Izuku moved around and soon found other things in the void. He came upon the city. It was in ruins. He looked around more and he just kept finding more and more ruins until he saw them. He saw what believed to be the past users of One For All and Izumi Yagi. Oh god, please, don't tell me I somehow got sucked into One For All. There is a nightmare. She starts appearing in my head, Izuku thought, as he moved closer to them to see if he could hear what they were talking about. As he got closer, he started to hear them talking, and Izumi was asking them why she couldn't use One For All correctly, and they looked at her, and what Izuku thought was the first user, aka his uncle, spoke up. Izumi Yagi, daughter of the 8th user and grandchild of the 7th user. You should know why we won't allow you to use the quirk correctly. You have committed a series of actions in your past that we cannot stomach. I still can't believe 8th still handed you the quirk knowing what you have done to your brother, stated the first user as he spoke with a frown on his face. Nana Shimura spoke up next. Izumi, we saw all of your memories when you received the quirk like we do whenever we enter new user and are cut off the previous user. We still maintain a connection to him, but we don't see any of his recent memories anymore, since we won't get a copy of him until he passes away and echoes join us in the quirk. But with everything we know, since you received the quirk, we can say that you started your action with twisted thoughts that led to this result. So can you really say you are worth to wield the quirk when even your father has committed crimes? I find disappointing, Nana stated as she looked at her granddaughter. It was true that Nana gave her children up, but she didn't neglect them or allow them to be abused to each other. She gave them up in fear of All For One finding them and harming them, but All Might chose to have children and still neglect one because one child was quirkless, which All Might was. The fun fact that Izuku just realized was that the previous user, based on their words, had no idea Izuku was All For One's son. Izuku had ordered All Might and Green Tornado, using his special agent privileges, to not reveal the information about him being the son of All For One, which meant Izumi didn't know, nor did the past user. At the best, the past users knew he wasn't All Might's biological son, but not what his true quirk was or whose son he was, which made him smirk. Izuku listened in as they all kept talking for a bit longer, as Izumi declared that she wanted to be better and to one day reconnect with her brother if he will forgive her for the action that happened, which made Izuku roll his eyes. I will do it that easily, but I don't agree with them allowing you to be injured using the quirk, Izuku thought as he's seen the damage the quirk has caused. She gained some control over it via full cowl mode, but it had a negative effect as well, and she could only maintain it for a minute or so before the control snapped and he knew it was due to the past users. As such, Izuku hated what he was going to do. He really hated it, but the memories from before he turned 4 were still in the far back of his mind, and hated how he couldn't shove her completely out of his existence even though he really effing wanted to. As the past users started talking about how the cook was meant to fight evil, a great evil, and that it was wearing its head, they still didn't believe she should be the one wielding the quirk for that fight. This made Izuku chuckle inside as they still didn't know his father had quit his evil scheme, and the ones causing the destruction with the Nomos, which they were referring to since it had multiple quirks, wasn't from his father. It was at that point that Izuku decided to get involved as he walked over and threw his arm around his uncle's shoulders. Everyone tensed when he made his appearance, and some of the past users freaked out and jumped away from him since they had no idea how Izuku got there. Nana recognized Izuku from the memories they have seen. "You're Izuku, my grandson," Nana shouted, and everyone calmed down at that but were still confused about how he got inside of the quirk, and Izumi was in shock at seeing her brother. "Oni-chan," she called out, and Izuku glared at her and she flinched back at his glare. The first user looked at Izuku and he felt off. "The more I look at you, the more you seem familiar without taking into account of seeing you via the memories. Why is that?" the first user asked, and Izuku started to laugh at that. "Oh, I would hope so, since I do take some looks from my father as I've grown up, wouldn't you say, uncle?" Izuku stated, and the first user whose eyes widened in shock, and he came up to Izuku and touched his face and he examined it. My brother had a family?" he stated, and the other users were in shock and freaked out again, while Nana was on the floor in shock since she realized that meant her daughter had gotten with the person that killed her. She felt disgusted and looked at Izuku and didn't know how to feel in regard to him, which Izuku could see. Indeed he did. He did give up being the world #1 villain after all when he had me, but All Might screwed that up and almost killed him when he was walking home with the milk to feed me. Though I would later come into the hands of my father years later after years of neglect and abuse at the hands of your 8th user and 9th user. Ironic, wouldn't you say, that the villains of the story became the hero of the story, while the heroes became the villains? Izuku stated as he used his shadow quirk that he had access to and created the share and sat down on it. The past users were in shock at what they just learned that Izumi was confused, which Izuku noticed. "Yage, you look so confused. Did no one ever tell you the story of One for All?" Izuku asked her, and she nodded her head and explained what she knew, which was on the One for All side of the story, and he rolled his eyes. Of course All Might would give his daughter a legacy filled with blood and death and not tell the entire story, the damn effing idiot, Izuku stated, and then told Izumi the entire story, which included All for One, and Izumi made a connection. "So you're telling me your biological father is All for One, and our father have tried to kill each other, and yours killed every past users?" Izumi Yagi asked, and Izuku nodded his head. "Also, there is the fact that I have All for One as well, but an advanced version, but my old man took it from me at birth, so I didn't kill myself with it since it activated after I was born. He never got the chance to return it until we reunited, since All Might aka your dad attempted to murder him after he gave up the villain world," Izuku stated, and Izumi and the past user were in shock to learn he had All for One. As they sat there, Izuku looked at her, and God, he hated the past memories from before he was 4, since they were driving him to make decisions which he hated doing since he didn't want to help her. "Uncle," Izuku called out, and his uncle came over to him and looked at him. "Give her the ability to control One for All without you all blocking it. You are all acting no better than she was when she's harming me, so get off your high horses since you are allowing her to be harmed by the quirk. If you didn't want her as a wielder, then you would have rejected the transfer, since I can feel you had the capability from what I've sensing from One for All right now," Izuku stated, and Izumi and the past user eyes widened at his request, and his uncle asked why he would do that. Izuku rolled his eyes and looked at his sister. "I don't know, my memories of this stupid girl from before I was 4 kept bugging me as you all talk down to her. Effing ironic that I'm helping my abuser. Effing fantastic, Izuku stated as he rolled his eyes and shrugged. Izumi's eyes widened as her tear fell from her eyes, which earned a scoff from Izuku. Oh, don't go crying now, since this doesn't mean I forgive you or anything. I still hate your guts, and I believe you shouldn't have been accepted into the hero course. Do know that I've advocated for you all to remove several times already and won't hide my dislike for you 3, but that doesn't mean I will stand for you being harmed just because people are on high horses, Izuku stated, and Izumi Yagi nodded her head, and his uncle just watched this entire scene play out in front of him. Maybe he is telling the truth of my brother's type and his evil schemes. Thought the first user, Izuku thought. I looked at the past user before citing. Listen up, since you are only hearing this once, my father would like to express his apologies to you all for, well, killing you all off. Grandmother, he didn't know Inko was your granddaughter since she got adopted by another family. If you are wondering if he planned that, he only learned later on after they separated, since Eiko decided to get on with All Might, not even after a few months after my father's sudden disappearance, though I'm wondering how she became such a neglect piece of crap when I was quirkless. I never understood that, nor did father understand how she did such a change from when he was with her, Izuku stated, and Nana was still disturbed to hear of all from being with her daughter, but put it aside as she told Izuku she didn't know how either. Izumi kept quiet since she knew better to talk right now and tried to defend her mother, since she had to admit that it wasn't right of her family to do what they did to Izuku. Anyway, anyone want to tell me why I'm here anyway? I was enjoying comfortable sleep with my lover when I found myself here, Izuku stated, and they all confused as well as why he was there. They all shrugged and he shook his head before remembering that the past user were speaking about another thing that he wanted to correct. Oh yeah, about those nomos. We know who it's that is creating them, and it's not my father. It's a doctor that has a quirk that has allowed him to live over a century. He did work for my dad at one point before I was born as well, so that's how we know or knew to search for him, but we did confirm it's him from other sources. Yagi, you are not allowed to talk about my quirk, my father, or the case I'm here in Japan on to anyone. If you need to talk to someone, go to Nizu, your parents, or I hate to say it, but me. Yeah, don't come to me unless it's important, Izuku stated as he shuddered at having to deal with her outside of the damn one-for-all quirk, and she nodded her head and lowered her head since she didn't want to talk to her outside of the quirk. Soon though, they saw both the children starting to disappear, and the Yagi in her idiotic self also freaking out as Izuku rolled his eyes. It seemed we are waking up, idiots, calm down, Izuku yelled at her, and she lowered her head again and nodded her head, though she was sure she heard him mutter another line that sounded like him wishing her a good day, though she thought she was crazy when she heard that, but in truth, Izuku did say it, but he was pissed and shocked with himself after he said it, since the damn memories from before the age of 4 kept effing pissing him off. However, he found himself awakened via Stella shaking him. She looked concerned as he looked at her and asked her what was wrong. She explained that he had a green lightning around him that looked familiar to how One For All looked around Yagi, and that shocked him as he looked at his copied quirks and cursed himself as he found a copy of One For All. When the hell did I copy One For All? Izuku said in a pissed tone, and Stella just calmed him down so they could think. As they were getting dressed and made their way to the living room and dining room, Stella presented a theory. What if due to the fact that One For All started with your father and uncle, that your quirk and synced themselves and allowed yours to copy One For All without your knowledge, since you are the blood of the people who started it and your quirk automatically called out to it. Stella proposed and Izuku just thought it over and struck, since it was the only theory that made sense to him currently, since there was nothing that else to go on, but he was still pissed he had it, and he was pissed at his last statement to Yagi in that dreamscape as he explained everything that happened to Stella and Hitoshi. They gave their viewpoints on the subject and Izuku would just think on it for now since he had to admit that they were right in him remembering the found time before it and all turned sour and that his mind in the dreamscape was likely reacting to seeing her being looked down upon, that the old brotherly instinct that he had cast away made an appearance. This was due to how Izuku has been fatherly to Hitoshi, and Izuku had to admit they were likely right in the fact that his fatherly aspects toward his adoptive son made his brotherly protectiveness come back out since Izuku would always protect her before their quirks came in. Though it didn't mean that Izuku liked it at all, since in honestly it pissed him the hell off. So guys, with that, I hope you enjoyed this short episode. I don't know what to say anymore, and yeah. So I'm gonna start back soon, going back to me uploading and stuff like that. And give me a second, someone calling me in my phone. So yeah, I don't know what I was saying before, but as I say, as always, stay home, stay safe, wash your hands, and spend the time with the most precious people you have. And take care of yourself because you're the most individual person we have in this channel. And you're important to us. And yeah, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to help us out to reach to our new goal, which is 10k, not 10k, sorry, 20k before. Let's try to break it out before the end of the year, or try to get it to halfway, like 15k or so. So yeah, see you next video. Peace out. Bye bye.